Let's first speak with Bev Jackson, co-founder of the LGB Alliance. Afternoon to you, Bev. Your reaction to this ruling this morning?
Yeah, lovely to see you, Ian, and thanks for having me on. And obviously, we're just incredibly pleased with this decision. And I really want to pay tribute to For Women Scotland, who have fought and fought and fought for years. They're all volunteers. They've just been fighting because it's so important for the women of Scotland, for the women of the UK. And I think that this will reverberate around the world. But we intervened, LGB Alliance and a number of lesbian groups, because of the rights of lesbians, which are constantly overlooked. And I think you'll find that all the articles about this coming up, they ignored the fact of lesbian rights. But it was really important when we saw in the court these judges grappling with the absurdity that a straight man, a heterosexual man who does not possess a gender recognition certificate is a heterosexual man, but once he's got that piece of paper, he becomes a lesbian. And you could see the judges thinking, this makes no sense. And that's why throughout their ruling, they talk about a coherent interpretation of the law. The law has to make sense. And sexual orientation, whether you're attracted to men or to women, is about biology. It's about biological sex. Of course it is. It isn't. Nobody's attracted to a piece of paper. It was a complete nonsense. And although I understand the Supreme Court saying that it isn't a victory, it is, of course, a victory for those whose rights have been ignored. This is not about trans rights. It's about women's rights and it's about lesbian rights, which is a sort of double of women's rights, isn't it? It's about women defining themselves and who we're attracted to.
And it did seem, I went through this at the beginning, and I talked, you and I, Bev, have spoken many times over the years on this issue, but what's to me still confusing, this was not an issue up until about half an hour ago, it seems. I've done this job for a couple of decades. You've worked in your field of campaigning and profile for a long, long time too. It never came up. It just never came up. It only really came up, I sense, was when not trans people who decide to live their life under a different name and a different sex from the one they were born with, who weren't harming anybody, weren't advocating any special treatment, etc. It seemed to be this kind of gender evangelism that threw it up. As you rightly say, you know, a bloke with a beard suddenly says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a lesbian. Now, sorry, no, that ain't happening, mate. And it was things like that and various, fairly high-profile people sometimes saying you can be whatever you want to be. And if you've got a beard and a penis and want to call yourself a woman, you have the right to do so, and the law of the land and all institutions should change to accommodate your identity.
Yes, well, I mean, you've got Peter Tatchell coming on in a minute, and he's going to talk about the rights of people who call themselves the opposite sex. But the fact is that lesbians' rights have been ignored throughout, and that is why Kate Harris and I set up LGB Alliance. Really, it was the main reason in 2019. We tried to get Stonewall to understand that when they changed from talking about the rights of gays and lesbians, same sex, to talking about the rights of people who think they're the opposite sex, same gender, they were making a nonsense of sexual orientation. Sexual orientation isn't about gender, someone who thinks they're the opposite sex. That's not what sexual orientation is. It's completely mad. And in fact, if you ask heterosexual people, if if a man who's heterosexual falls for a woman because it's a man but who calls themselves a woman, they will think it's ridiculous because straight people don't have to deal with that. It's lesbians mostly who've had to deal with this, and we're really sick and tired of it. And that is why I feel really, I think you can hear it in my voice, I feel really emotional about this. We have been fighting this for so long. We have been ignored, we have been invisible, and it's really a tremendous, above all, it's a relief to see that the Supreme Court understood, and they said that for lesbians to have to accept men who call themselves lesbians into their spaces and into their activities is an assault on their autonomy and dignity. And it was such a relief to read those words, I can't tell you.
I tell you, and it got to really weird sort of areas, didn't it? I think, again, we talked about this before. If I decided that I was a woman, but I wasn't a straight woman, I was a lesbian, and you decided, Bev, that you would never date me, then that would make you a wicked transphobe, despite the fact that my anatomical makeup remains that of a male. You would be transphobic for not you wouldn't have to date me, but for not recognising that I was dateable. That would make you the bad person.
From how difficult it is for you to even express that it is not,
Yes.
It's incoherent, isn't it? It makes no sense. And yet that is what Stonewall has been telling us. That is what, ever since 2015, when they changed from same sex to same gender, that is what Stonewall has been telling us. And that is what all the LGBTQIA plus organizations around the world have been telling us. And that's why I really hope that this is a victory for what is sometimes called Turf Island, sometimes affectionately and sometimes as an insult. I'm really pleased that news media around the world, in France and in America, around the world, are taking note of this, because this needs to be rowed back everywhere, not just in the UK, and all tribute to For Women Scotland for fighting this fight and allowing us to intervene on behalf of lesbian rights.
Bev, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you on, Bev. Jack.